Hello everybody, and welcome to Silence Time-Lapse Art. On the last part, we left off on this handsome dog right here, Cain Valstein, and I know what you're all thinking that are already artists. You're probably cringing at that coffee being right next to my drawing pad. Frankly, it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, we drew this last one, and we're going to go ahead and flip to a new page here, because that's what you do if you're going to go ahead and draw something. You need a fucking blank page to be able to do it on. And we're going to draw right with that coffee right there. I assure you, none of it ever spilled on anything. So, here we go. We're going to go ahead and do his partner in crime, which is Vella Delaquis. And spelling on screen here. See, here's the thing. I like a lot of classic cliches that are thrown in things because they're fairly effective, really. One of my favorite ones is in any kind of duo where they basically yin and yang. They balance each other out, you know, kind of polar opposites in one way or another, or in every way, however way that you want to go ahead and do this. So, Cain Valstein is supposed to be a level-headed, straight man kind of character that analyzes a situation, thinks, and responds correspondingly to the information that he derives from the situation. Whereas Vella is a very over-the-top, fourth wall breaking, energetic individual that's constantly just mischievous, cracking jokes at everybody else's expense, and in fighting, very... I was thinking intuitive for some reason, but the word that I'm looking for is instinctual and fairly reckless versus other people. Not quite reckless is the word that I'm using, but impulsive would be better. She just goes ahead and she'll just do something straight off of reaction, and she's always the first person to pick up anything that could be bad in a situation, anything that is awry or doesn't make sense or something is off. You're about to get ambushed by that bandit group over there hiding behind the rocks or something. She's going to be the first one to sniff it out. And she is second only to one other character when it comes to just the raw wit of picking something up in a split second. But again, that character is supposedly he's supposed to be a genius. Anyway, so that doesn't even really, count. So, by her very nature, she is like this because Vella is an archer. Specifically, she is a ranger class in this game, so she uses a bow and nothing but a bow. She cannot use anything melee, but she can use a bow in close quarters and usually has people like Cain to take the front line for her, so she doesn't really need anything up close. And this stems back to where she is from in the universe of Tempest. She is a Viara race, which I made a lot of different races. Not very many of them are too differentiating of what you would expect to see a classic human in this. There are, kind of dwarves in here, but not really. They don't look like classic dwarves. They just behave as such. There's the usual elven race kind of thing. Again, they all don't look very different, other than just their physique in general. Like, some races might just be generally, bulkier, as in, a lot more muscle mass or something. And going back to the Viara, because I'm going off topic here, they are a bunch of hunter-type individuals. It is literally just a little town off to the side of a forest, essentially. It's in more woodlands area, is how I like to imagine it in my head, at least. Not quite deep forest, but there are trees and all of this other stuff. It's very nature-oriented, but again, hunters. Almost everybody in this town knows how to use a bow or a gun of some kind, and they are just naturally very competitive people, very intuitive of the situation types people. They're just like animals, essentially. At least it is that way with their instincts versus any other kind of race in all of Tempest, really, or Xeris, rather. So, to revisit the whole racist thing again, just to go ahead and cover more ground as well, while she is a Viara race from the town of Melamore, that would make Cain a Savani race from a town called Draenor or Draven. I don't remember what I made as the finalized name for that town, though, but Or at least so you think he's from that town. That's where everything starts, but he's not actually from that town anyway. It's not even that big of a spoiler to say something like that, though. He's essentially an orphan. So, his race versus hers is Cain is essentially kind of just like a classic adventurer, really. They're very nomadic, the Savani, and just kind of stock, very, like, stock as in... what's the word that I'm looking for? Like a standard to use to compare to any other race that you have in there. They're just very average versus the physique, the height, the anything else of any of the other races that are in Azeris. And Viera are generally a little bit smaller, not quite there yet, but again, very, like, stealthy and shit, as you would imagine. They're kind of like, not a halfling race, because they're not short, but they would classify as that, really. Like, they're about as good at anything that a halfling would be good at. They're just great at hiding, great at stealth, all that other shit. So, that's how I shaped everything right there. So, right off the bat here, you're gonna... anybody who's watching this right now who might have played Final Fantasy XI back in the day, because you can kind of see it right now, you might think that her outfit looks incredibly similar to the Ranger Artifact 1 armor from Final Fantasy XI, and that's because it basically is. I used that as a base for how I wanted to do her armor here, and I did that for a lot of different things. We'll eventually draw a character called Sol the Paladin later on, who literally is just wearing Paladin AF2 from Final Fantasy XI. So I used a lot of Final Fantasy XI inspired armors and pieces and stuff to figure out what these characters are wearing. Especially the Dragoon armor. Again, we are going to be going into these much later on. There are so many characters that I can introduce you people to. And I especially loved the hat that I did right there. It even has, like, the brooch from the Ranger Artifact. I think it might be AF2 that headpiece is, but I don't remember. It's one of those either relic or artifact pieces. I can't fucking remember for the life of me, though. It's been so long since I played that game, but yeah, that's literally what her armor is, essentially, my take on it. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. I completely flew off the handle on, like, my first recording of this and had no idea what to talk about at first, but I figured I'm going to redirect us back over to how these characters behave in their off time, essentially. Starting with Vella, of course, because that's basically what this is about anyway, though, but, alright. So I've already gone over the fact that she is a very instinctual person, right? So that makes it so that she tends to piss off a couple of the more intellectual people in the cast, simply because of the fact that she's not very book smart. She doesn't pay attention to things. It's not because she's not smart that she can't understand these concepts. It's because she has no desire or motivation to do so. And essentially, that's how it works in the Sanctuary as well. Whenever that she's, like, being taught anything by anybody from the Sanctuary, which I believe I went over that in the last one, which is where all of these heroes are coming together to be able to, like, train and become a participant in the Tempest Wars and all that other shit. But, any kind of thing that she's learning from anybody, or any books, or any required reading to know this, or to know that, or to anything that would essentially not be learned from personal experience, or from some kind of just field training in general, Vella's not good with. She just doesn't care. She doesn't care to read. She doesn't care to do any of that other crap. It's beyond her. She'll fall asleep in doing so. It's just how her character is. She wants to be out there physically doing it, physically learning it, and actually getting her hands dirty with things. And it's a pretty respectable character trait, I feel, for somebody who's not one of the more intellectual characters in here. There aren't exactly dumb characters in this, but it's due to the nature of the universe itself. You can't be a stupid person and be a hero at the same exact time. Like, it just doesn't work. If you don't get things, or you're not smart, it just doesn't work. And I don't think that inherently there are very many people that are stupid anyway, to be honest with you. If you ever seem to think that way about somebody, it's usually because you just don't understand the way their brain works, how they understand things. Yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and visit back at that kind of thing as well. the house that they actually live in, it's in a slightly outskirted area just off of, like, the main town at the start of the story, was actually built by Vella. That's the other thing about Melamorians, or Viara, or whatever, is these people are incredibly good at woodworking, specifically. A lot of different races are really good with certain crafting and certain, like, because obviously that's an inherent thing in RPG games, right? There's a crafting system, or this, or that. Well, Viara are incredibly good with woodworking of any kind, building anything from actual weapons to just, obviously, buildings out of wood. So she is incredibly knowledgeable on that front right there. She's actually a master woodworker, too, on top of it. Like, she would be considered, like, an absolute professional at it in the long run of things. So that's always something that you can talk about at a dinner party right there. The next character that I'm going to wind up doing is actually not part of the initial party that happens. As the base story unfolds in this, the first thing is it's just these two characters, and then they get introduced to form up in a group of 5 with 3 other people. And I'm not going to talk about those 3 people quite yet. Eventually they form a classic party of 6. That was like the magic number for Final Fantasy XI days. I tried to build it off of that same exact thing. Again, a lot of Final Fantasy XI inspiration here. But 6 was the party limit right there. So that's what their general party size is right there, but there are a lot more characters than that. Like I said, it's going to feel like Chrono Cross if you've ever played that game, with how many party members that you have. But there's, again, one other character that I'm going to do that I think is a very pinnacle character in the story, too. One of my favorite characters, even. It is a she, I will say that, and she is very Dark Knight-esque. But I don't want to talk too much about it, because, again, that's going to be the topic of the next drawing video anyway. But, yeah, so that is Vella Delaquis. I'm going to go ahead and write her name down right there, and then that about wraps everything up for this video right here. So thank you guys for joining me for the second part. Again, I'm going to get further into these and talk about all the different characters and just further explode with enthusiasm for this story and just fucking rant about it. So yeah, I will, one more zoom in right here. So take it easy, guys. I'll see you in the next parts. Have fun and enjoy.